See, that's believing the unbelievable. That's credulity. But you have the same scenario. The building is on fire, and someone's on the roof crying out for help, and two big fire engines come down the street, and some big husky firemen get out, and they're dragging a heavy net, and they go to the foot of the building, they stretch out the net. If you'll jump, we'll catch you. And the person thinks. They're trained professionals. They're well equipped. They're strong men. That net will hold my weight. And so jumps into the safety of the net, and they're saved. The second would be an example of Christian faith. Believing the believable. I think what Jesus taught is quite believable. I found that Christianity the testimony of the Bible authenticates itself by giving meaning to life. And we all intuitively know that life has meaning. Take God out of the picture. Take life after death out of the picture. And if I might quote Macbeth, life is just all sound and fury, a tale told by an idiot, signifying nothing. But bring God into the picture. In the beginning, God. And we have purpose and meaning. God created us for His glory, that we might enjoy Him forever. Life takes on significance, and man has dignity. And I think we all intuitively know we have dignity. We all intuitively know we have meaning. A little child, one of the first questions they'll ask is, what does that mean? Why? Well, the Bible tells us everything is for the glory of God, and that we might enjoy Him forever, that we might have a happy, purposeful, and fulfilling life. But if there is no God, there's no meaning, there's no purpose. It's all sound and fury, signifying nothing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jed.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's see here. I can come up with a more reasonable belief system with a higher ethical code than that one found in the Bible. But it does not say, Jesus said, hey, don't kill anyone in my name. If it had said that, we wouldn't have had the Crusades, or the Inquisition, or a lot of other terrible, terrible things done in the name of Jesus. And frankly, I think that was a pretty important omission for someone who had perfect knowledge of the future, as Jesus, or rather God, is supposed to have. As far as my moral system, how is it better than that one in the Bible? I don't know that it is. I believe that it is, or I would have the one in the Bible instead of mine or some other. Let's just take one example. Divorce. Let's take divorce. The Bible pretty clearly prohibits divorce. In some cases, divorce can be a good thing. If people are married for the wrong reasons and they don't belong together, if there's domestic abuse or that sort of thing, I think that is an error to say, as an ethical code, we should not have a divorce. Sometimes there are good reasons for it. I want to talk a little bit about faith as far as it being submitting your will to truth. That's not really what faith is. Or rather, I'm going to contest that as a definition for faith. Faith comes from the Latin word fides, which Becca can tell you means to trust, fide. It doesn't necessarily mean truth. I have here the Merriam-Webster Third International New Unabridged definition of faith, and it says, firm or unquestioning belief in something for which there is no proof. Now, that doesn't mean it isn't true, but it means there's no proof, and it means that it could be false, just like anything for which we have no proof. Faith is not necessarily a good thing. I take issue with the religious idea that faith is a virtue. Faith can lead to all sorts of terrible things, and basically it's a license to fall for just about anything that somebody who can trick you into believing it can trick you into believing, and that's not a good thing. That limits our quest for truth, especially if it has included with it this idea that the stronger your faith is, the less you question, the less you look for truth. Galileo is an excellent example of this. Copernicus, people who were executed or exiled because they were pursuing truth instead of what people interpreted the Bible to say. Let's see how I want to put this. I don't want this to come across as an ad hominem attack, but I'm just going to read this here. This is from the Diagnostic Manual of Mental Disorders, the 4th edition text revision, DSM-4-TR. It says, delusional disorder is an illness characterized by the presence of non-bizarre delusions in the absence of other mood or psychotic symptoms. It defines delusion as false beliefs based on incorrect inference about external reality that persist despite evidence to the contrary, and these beliefs are not ordinarily accepted by other members of the person's culture or subculture. Pretty much what that means is that if you live in a culture or a subculture where your beliefs are not the norm, you're delusional. And I think if you don't have good evidence for something as it being true, it's not a license to say this is real just because my culture accepts it as so. It doesn't really change anything. It seems to be more a matter of geography than of epistemology. And I think that's something people should take into consideration when they're trying to decide what to believe or not. If you can't show it objectively outside of itself, then that should tell you something about whether you should believe it or not. As far as Jesus claiming to be the truth personified, I don't know if I really have time to get into this. John saying, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," I quoted him as saying that. I'm just going to really quickly paint a picture of first century Palestine. About 3 to 5% of the population could read, even fewer could write. The people who are alleged to have written the New Testament, the Gospels at least, were rural day laborers in Galilee. Nazareth was a town with fewer than 400 people. It is extremely unlikely that the disciples, who were lower class, illiterate Aramaic-speaking peasants from Galilee, could have ever written something like the Gospels, which was in beautifully written Greek. I also want to explain that writing and reading are completely different skills, kind of akin to typing and writing. Just because you can do one doesn't mean you can do the other. And reading and speaking are completely different skills. Just as an example, we all know how to say samurai or sayonara and what those mean, but we don't necessarily know how to write them in Japanese, and neither should we assume that these people could. I don't think Jed has made a good case that the Bible is a credible source for these claims. We have pretty much no idea what Jesus said. Pretty much the only thing we can really historically determine about him is that he existed, that he was executed for causing a scene for blasphemy. That's pretty much all we have outside of the Bible as far as contemporary records about him. This question here, when people ask him to prove the Bible is true, and he asks, well, how much of it have you read? I think that's a straw man argument. I think there are a lot of things that we could read that we shouldn't necessarily have to go through them line by line. First, we have to know, I mean, if you're going to make the claim that it's true because it comes from God, I think you should show that it comes from God first, and then